Security pulled a black CEO off a plane. Then she pulled $4 billion in funding from the airline. Before we dive into this story, drop your city or country in the comments. Let's see how far this one travels. Because what happens when the person you underestimate turns out to own your future? This isn't just a story about bias. It's about power, composure, and the kind of revenge that doesn't need noise, only action. It started as a calm Chicago morning. Clear skies, business as usual. Dr. Lena Moore moved through the airport with quiet focus. No entourage. No designer bag. Just confidence. At 43, she was one of the most respected CEOs in global logistics, a woman who had built her billion-dollar empire from the ground up. That day, she was on her way to finalize a sustainability partnership with an airline she'd supported for over a decade. In first class, she placed her carry-on, smiled at the flight crew, and opened her laptop to review her presentation. Everything felt ordinary, routine, until the next few minutes reminded her power doesn't always protect you from prejudice. She had no idea this flight would change everything. Minutes before takeoff, 2 security guards boarded the plane. Their radios crackled softly as they moved toward her seat. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us," one said flatly. Passengers turned to watch. Confused glances, whispers. A man smirked from across the aisle. Lena looked up, calm and composed. "Is there a problem?" No one answered. Just silence. Her boarding pass had been scanned. Her seat confirmed. Yet something in their tone said, this wasn't about paperwork. She closed her laptop, placed it neatly in her bag, and stood without argument. No raised voice. No visible anger. As she stepped into the aisle, the entire cabin fell quiet. She didn't argue, because she didn't need to. They escorted her back into the terminal like she'd done something wrong. At the gate, a white supervisor waited with a clipboard. "There's a discrepancy with your ticket," he said. Lena's brows lifted slightly. "You scanned it. You seated me. What kind of discrepancy?" He shrugged. "You're not cleared to fly today. No apology. No explanation. Just dismissal." She stood still for a moment, studying the man's blank expression. Not anger. Disappointment filled her eyes. People around the gate watched, pretending not to. Her calm silence made them uncomfortable. As she walked away, one thought followed her like a shadow. They thought she was just another passenger. What they didn't know, they had just humiliated the woman funding their success. Lena didn't storm out or raise her voice. She simply walked to the executive lounge, calm as ever, and opened her tablet. On her screen were contracts, hundreds of pages outlining her company's deep involvement with the same airline that had just humiliated her. Her firm, Moore Global Logistics, wasn't a small partner. It was the engine behind the airline's entire global system. From cargo routing and warehouse operations to flight tracking software, her technology kept their planes moving. Every shipment, every flight, every delivery passed through Moore's network. And now, that network had one name on every ownership document. Hers. Passengers had seen a woman escorted off a plane. The airline had seen a name on a ticket. But what they missed was the truth. They'd just disrespected their biggest investor. Within hours, that partnership would no longer exist. Lena made one quiet call. No frustration, no shouting, just focus. Pull every file connected to this airline, she instructed her legal team. Contracts, renewals, service agreements, everything. Her tone was steady, almost calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing your next move will echo far beyond anger. Her assistant hesitated. "Dr. Moore, do you want to wait?" "No," Lena interrupted softly. "Do it now." She wasn't driven by rage. She was guided by precision. This was no longer about being mistreated on a flight. It was about principle. and accountability. While others might post a video or give a statement, Lena stayed silent. By the time the world found out who she was, it would already be too late for the airline to recover. That night, the video surfaced. A fellow passenger had captured the moment security escorted Lena off the plane. No sound, just the image of calm grace under humiliation. The clip spread like wildfire. Headlines flashed across every major network. Black CEO removed from first-class flight. No explanation given. The internet exploded. Thousands of comments poured in. How does this still happen? Do they even know who she is? Within hours, journalists were digging deeper. And when they found out who Lena Moore really was, the billionaire CEO behind the airline's own logistics systems, public outrage turned into admiration. Everyone wanted her response. But Lena didn't post a word. She didn't need to speak. She knew silence was sometimes the loudest answer. The system was already exposing itself, beautifully. By sunrise, the news reached corporate headquarters. Moore Global Logistics had terminated all contracts with the airline, effective immediately. A $4 billion logistics partnership vanished overnight. Flights grounded. Cargo shipments stalled. Warehouse operations froze. Panic spread through the boardroom like wildfire. Executives scrambled for answers, calling emergency meetings. Investors demanded explanations. Stock prices dipped 9% before the market even opened. No one could believe it. How could a single person's decision cause this much disruption? But Lena wasn't just anyone. She was the architect of their infrastructure, the woman they'd underestimated. Inside the airline's crisis center, someone whispered, "We removed her from a flight." And she removed our foundation. By the time they realized who she truly was, it was already over. By day 3, the airline's boardroom was in chaos. Their CEO stepped before cameras, voice heavy with regret. He issued a public apology and requested a private meeting with Dr. Lena Moore, but Lena didn't accept. Instead, she released a single statement through her press team. "Respect is not negotiable." That sentence lit up every social feed, turning into a global headline and a rallying cry for professionals everywhere who'd been underestimated. Her calm defiance became inspiration. Comment sections filled with words like icon, power, class, and yet the suspense remained. If she had the power to end a $4 billion contract, what would she do next? The world watched, waiting for her next quiet move. Lena didn't dwell on the fallout. Instead, she redirected her focus toward creation, not destruction. Weeks later, she announced Elevate Air, a global innovation fund designed to build partnerships rooted in diversity, ethics, and respect. The goal was simple: connect companies that valued inclusion with the resources to lead change. Her first calls weren't to investors. They were to airline executives who'd stood by her in silence, now eager to collaborate the right way. Within months, Elevate Air launched projects across 3 continents, merging technology with human dignity. Her silence hadn't been retreat. It was strategy. Lena had turned insult into influence, and what was once humiliation became a blueprint for progress. Meanwhile, the airline that removed her struggled to stay airborne, financially and publicly. Stock prices slipped another 9%. Major investors withdrew. Customers boycotted flights, sharing the viral hashtag, "Respect is not negotiable." Media pressure grew intense. Every interview, every headline circled back to the same question: how could this happen? Executives shuffled, PR campaigns launched, but nothing could erase the video of that quiet walk off the plane. While they scrambled to repair their image, Lena moved forward, signing new deals, mentoring young leaders, and redefining what modern leadership looked like. She didn't need to look back, because while they fought to survive, she was already building what came next. Lena's story became more than corporate news. It became a symbol. In business schools, leadership seminars, and online forums, her quote was studied like a lesson in grace and power. It had proven that respect and equity aren't just moral values. They carry real economic weight. Her actions reminded the world that influence doesn't always arrive in a suit or a title. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, and unshakably certain. She hadn't destroyed a company. She'd exposed a mindset, and in doing so, she changed how industries viewed accountability, not as punishment, but as progress. Lena's calm courage became the standard every leader was measured by. Sometimes the person you dismiss as a passenger owns the runway. Have you ever faced disrespect while traveling or working? Share your city and country in the comments. Let's make this story global. Because stories like Lena's aren't just about one woman. They're reminders of what dignity looks like when tested. True power doesn't yell. It doesn't threaten, it simply acts. And when it does, the world notices. If this story inspired you, share it. Because the more people who see it, the closer we get to a future where respect is never optional.